Hi, mystery writers. Welcome to Write a Killer Mystery. I'm Zara Altair, and I am deep into getting the videos ready for Write a Killer Mystery course. I've been really busy, so I thought I'd revisit something that happens to all writers, and that's when your story stalls. Sometimes your story seems to throw up a big wall and you don't know how to fix it and you're stuck. And it happens to all writers. That's the one thing I want you to know. It's part of the process, so don't despair. And with all the character descriptions and story planning you've done, your story seems stuck and you don't know where to go and what to write, and you feel like your main character right after the midpoint of the story when they feel like giving up. Don't give up, okay? So you're going to take action to root out the problem so you can continue writing and know what to do. And the first thing to do is not consider your story as a failure, or worse, that you as a writer are a failure. It's truly a process glitch. That's really all it is. So let's look at some tips to get your story back on track. Approach your stop point depending on the root cause, and let's look at some of the root causes and look at ways to get your story moving forward again. First, take a step back, walk away, do something else. Don't just sit there staring at the screen going, oh no, my story's stuck. Walk away, trust the process, take a walk, go do a hobby, take your dog out, play with the kids, do whatever, but it's totally something else. Nothing to do with story and story writing, okay? Because sometimes, amazingly enough, when you're away from your story, ping, the idea comes. So get physical. Go out and trim a hedge, wash dishes, run, because physical energy stimulates mental energy. It's neuroscience, so just go with it. Go get physical. If you're still feeling stuck, go back to your story Bible. Add more to your main characters. Really focus on those main characters. Or if you're stuck when you're, say you're detective sleuth and a suspect have an interchange, go back and build on that suspect. And I think your characters are going to tell you what to do next. So go back to your character Bible, add more details, because a close look often sparks the way to new complications. And as soon as you get a complication, your protagonist has to work to get out of that complication. Another thing to do is to look at your storyline. Sometimes you're emotionally attached to a scene or a chapter that doesn't fit the overall story. So you have to pull yourself back and look at that particular section of your story and see if it really works. See what happens if you remove it for a while, put it in a side folder or something, and see if that works and go on with your story. The other thing is, if you're being nice to your protagonist, it's time to throw some harm your protagonist's way. So be cruel to your sleuth. And you've created a rock star sleuth with multiple talents, and now make your sleuth work hard to get to the finish. The bigger the obstacle, the juicier the story. So just go off and brainstorm some ways to really confound your protagonist. Another way is to raise the stakes. Maybe you're making things in little tiny increments and Now you got to get something big, something really big. And that's going to go right along with big obstacles. Raise the stakes. Make the conflict bigger. Raymond Chandler wrote great detective stories, and he said, when in doubt, have a man come through a door with a gun in his hand. A writer who is afraid to overreach himself is as useless as a general who's afraid to be wrong. So, go for broke. Go for broke. You can also raise the threat level, expand your threat, thinking from just physical to emotional and philosophical. Really challenge your protagonist. Lots of times we think of as physical fights as the big threat level, but sometimes it's the moral challenge that, one, moves your story forward, and two, gets your readers really involved. It may be a gun, it may be a member of the opposite sex who drops an emotional bomb. And when good fails and evil wins for the moment, you make your sleuth turn cynical. There's just lots of ways to raise that threat level. If you're at the beginning of your story and you're right there in the middle and you just, whoa, something seems very strange, look at your story structure and start pointing your story toward the midpoint. Don't even think about the end for the moment. Head toward the midpoint. The story's going to make a big change after the midpoint. So now your role is to get that story toward the midpoint. And if you're in the first half of your mystery, focus on getting there. What can happen in the story right now that gets your sleuth closer to the middle? Because lots of times we're so focused on the end and the big reveal that we miss the challenges that are along the way. So give your story some room. If you're in the second half of your story, head toward the end. Now everything has changed after the midpoint and the reveal at the end of your mystery. And have you identified the right killer? This happened to me once. I was about 2/3 maybe way through the story, and I went, the person I think is the killer is just the wrong person. And I actually changed who the killer was in that story, and everything fell into place. I had to go back and make some tweaks, but they were very minor tweaks. So head toward the end. Think about changing the villain and explore where that takes you, because sometimes that's all it takes. You're just trying to fit the wrong suspect into that villain hole. Okay. And then another way to go away from your story is to read in your genre. Look for inspiration from other writers. Examine how other authors keep their story moving, and you'll get fresh ideas for your mystery. The tips are aimed at helping you identify why you're stuck in the story, and the resolution to getting unstuck is often the story structure or in your cast of characters. So taking action is the quickest way to get past your story impediment, that big roadblock. Positive motivation to the story is the best way to get your story moving, and a positive outlook that this is just an obstacle for you, just like you create obstacles for your character. This is an obstacle for you, the writer, to overcome, and it kicks you out of your negative thinking, because the negative thinking is the place where you can really get stuck. You don't want to be there. Just think of it as part of the process and explore ways to get your story going again. Every writer has moments when the story doesn't feel right. I'm going to say that again. Every writer has moments when the story doesn't feel right. So remember that writing a mystery novel is a process. And when you work to get past a stuck place, you improve the process. So find your man with a gun in his hand and keep writing. Okay, I want to thank you all for being here. And I'm very excited. The Killer Mystery Course should be out the beginning of November. I'm just very excited about that and working like night and day to get all the videos for all the course sections ready. I'm super excited about that. Meanwhile, don't forget, subscribe to Write a Killer Mystery and click the little notification bell so you'll get a notice when I'm up next time.